Welcome back to Business of Being Black with Tammi Mack. I'm Tammi Mack. Let's get down to business. I'm talking square biz to you, baby. The business of being Black today is technology. Is it dumbing us down? Please welcome the co-host of the Gentlemen of Crypto podcast, King Bless, radio personality and the host of Miles to Mogul, Miles Blockson, author and research professor of philosophy and psychology, Anthony Chimero, and consultant and life coach, Dr. Jeff Menzie. Listen, whether we agree or not on whether technology is dumbing us down, we can definitely agree that it has revolutionized the world. How has technology revolutionized the world, Tony?
Well, I think we can just do a lot more than we were able to do before, partly because we don't waste our mental energy memorizing phone numbers and we don't spend our time lost when we're trying to get to the grocery store. And we also can just do more complicated computations and calculations now that just make us able to accomplish more complex tasks.
That does sound like it's dumbing us down. I don't think you gave us a good reason for it dumbing us down. I'm like, we can't remember phone numbers. We don't know how to get to where we got to go. And we need to use our computer to calculate things. Miles.
I mean, he made the argument for me. Like, I have at least 5 numbers memorized that I need to know in case my phone goes out or in case I have to use somebody else's phone. So I feel like it has dramatically dumbed us down. Like, the only upsides to me of technology is the fact that we do get to see our loved ones. That's it. For the most part, we get to keep up with people in our lives. That's it.
Now, come on now, Miles, you killing me today. Miles, you have to at least agree that technology and the GPS has mastered a certain area in our lives.
I'll give you a little bit for GPS. So how many times have you been driving and it took you the long way home? Let's be honest here.
Dr. Menzie.
Yeah, my man Tony, I'm a research professor just like you, brother. And, that whole thing, a waste of time memorizing numbers. Come on, psychology researcher. Memory is a muscle just like anything else. And if you're not utilizing it, then you eventually lose the capacity for it. And we're talking about an aging population, we're talking about people who are we're beginning to live longer as human beings, so to not flex your memory muscle is actually setting yourself up for failure in the future. The GPS piece, I know people who have the GPS to get home from the grocery store. That's the waste. I think about it like this. When you GPS your way to a location, you don't pay attention to landmarks. You don't pay attention to the route that you took. And so you almost always need the GPS to get back out of there. And so back in the day, we used to actually get real maps, call somebody, hey, how I get to your house? And they say, when you see the old man with only 3 teeth on the corner, make a left right there. Right. So we have to flex our muscles. And right now, man, they're taking that from us. And with every technological revolution, there are people that push back, because they cite, all the changes. People do resist change. Some people get on board, they get ahead of the curve and they take full advantage and they prosper. But then that's that group in the middle that just kind of goes along to get along, and they're no better for it in the end.
Do any of you remember the Thomas Guide? Anyone remember a thing called Thomas Guide?
I do.
You remember it, Miles? Yeah, the Thomas Guide. I'm so happy I got to throw that thing in the trash can. I swear to God. I do not want to ever in my life see a Thomas Guide. But Dr. Menzie, that's me. I'm people who have to GPS to the grocery store. Okay. I admit it. I gotta admit it. Professor Chimero, you have said that there isn't any evidence actually that technology has made us less intelligent. Talk about that.
Right. So, people have had this worry ever since Plato. He worried that learning to read and write would, he said, implant forgetfulness in our souls. Right. So people worried about this thing from the very beginning of the written word. And I think that when you look at the headlines in the newspapers that talk about psychological experiments, they don't actually show that people are less intelligent or have worse memories. They typically show things more like, if I tell you that you don't have to memorize something because you can look it up later, you're less likely to remember it. That's the kind of content of the psychological experiments.
But Professor Chimero, Dr. Menzie makes a very good point when he says the memory is a muscle. And if you don't use it, you will lose it. So is that true? Like, how do you feel about that?
Sure. Memory is important, but again, you don't have to spend your time memorizing things that you could just look up later. It's good to remember things, but you can use that psychological energy in a more effective way sometimes. What we should do is we should allow the machines to do things for us that we're bad at, like memorization, like complicated computation, things like that. And then we should spend our mental energy doing other things.
Tammi, you said we could just jump in. Look at this now. I'm actually very surprised that my fellow scholar and researcher and professor here is talking like this about psychological characteristics. Tammi, when I do an IQ test, for example, when I'm literally testing somebody's intelligence, there are several types of subtests that I administer. One is a memory test. So the degree to which they can recall information determines, in part, their intellect. Their ability to reason, to psychologically reason on things, their ability to pay attention and freedom from distractibility. These are characteristics of both IQ as well as psychological disorders. And so what our dear professor here is talking about is literally the manifestation of psychological disorders and disabilities. And it's just like, I'm appalled by this. I can't believe it, brother.
Well, I apologize, but I think that for one, IQ doesn't really measure anything. And the IQ tests themselves have a long history of racist bias.
Yeah, you're true about that.
But here's the
professor's speaking now. He said they have racist bias. And you got to agree with that, Dr. Menzie.
Well, see, but that's why he played that card. So now he's trying to trump me by being the one that brings up racism.
No. He's not playing cards and trumping you. He's speaking facts. Go ahead, Professor Shamiro.
So I guess what I'm suggesting is that we have to understand humans as always using technology to do what we do. And we have to adjust how we do things to the current technology. Being smart isn't a matter of raw brain power. It's a matter of being able to accomplish things. So I think that's what I'm talking about, Dr. Menzies. I don't mean to disagree with the practice that you do, but I do think that we have to understand being smart differently now.